Braves are back at Carver in Vegas. It doesn't really matter. Let's get to some Braves talk. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and the boys of Braves Talk are back after a 3-week hiatus. Welcome to Braves Talk, everybody. It's nice to see everybody out there. See Iceman, Matt Freights, and of course with me, the pals, Coach and OG. Welcome, fellas.
Iceman, Dad.
Hey.
Braves Nation, glad you are joining us tonight. Glad to see some excitement in the group chat on X, the Bradley Disenthusiast. It's a fun group. I've had a lot of fun with that, honestly. It's been wonderful. And even just following along, like if I don't participate, it's a lot of fun. And super pumped about the support. It's been a weird, like with the holidays and stuff, and we said we had a little illness, and there's been a long stretch of like no Bradley basketball either. So I think we're all kind of suffering from some Braves withdrawals here lately, right?
Sports withdrawal in particular. I mean, I'm football, Notre Dame fans as we are, football fans, and Bradley basketball. I'm like last couple of weeks, week and a half or so, it's just been kind of what's next and
Twiddling
when.
our thumbs.
Yep.
He's just waiting for that next meta bomb. That's what he's waiting for. That's the whole time
Meta
been waiting
blaster.
for it. And we're going to get to that,
Hey,
fellas.
happy belated birthday to Meta too, by the way.
Did you send him a card or anything?
No, I didn't. No.
I would have expected something a little bit more than just a card,
All right,
man.
We're a little late for this, but like, had I thought about it ahead of time, I would have found someone. Which Matt, you have the skill set to do this, and I know some of our friends in the group chat do too. From what I've seen, it would have been great to make a Christmas card with OG and Meta like together on it, like wishing you a Merry Christmas, like from OG and Meta. That
Still only December 12th, folks.
Fantastic. I don't know though. I feel like it's a little tight. We'll see.
It's not tight. I could do that tonight after the show and make it happen, and it would be romantic. It would be
I think
lovely.
We'd have to get permission from him to do something.
I don't think we would, because there's a lot of photos that I use that we don't get permission for. We just don't claim them as our own. So it would be a nice little gesture for Meta. Well, fellas, listen.
Would like to meet him sometime, and
Hey, listen, Meta, if you're out there, OG's looking for you next time they're at Carver. Get after him, okay? And listen, guys, it's been 3 weeks. The Braves have been off for a weird amount of time. But I would say this. Ever since we were on here last, it has been a good 3 weeks. There hasn't been really much negativity to go around. 5 big wins, 4, whatever. Either way, lots of winning, lots of championships out in Myrtle Beach. Almost a new super fan, but they weren't quite invested 100%. You never know. And I think the Braves look pretty good. They also have a conference win under their belt, which is obviously something that usually doesn't happen until the new year turns over. And so it's hard to say that this was a bad time for the Braves. I mean, it's been a lot of trending upward, and I think that's what we want. So, Brad, why don't you kind of break down the way that it's been the last 3 weeks for the old Braves?
Yeah, I mean, it's been exciting. Can you imagine how painful this stretch of time would have been had they dropped the game in Carbondale? I mean, it would have been brutal. But luckily, they got a big win, and so this has been a very pleasant break. And, of course, hearing that Duke is recovering well and likely to play on Saturday is another positive thing. So, as you mentioned, the Braves went to Myrtle Beach, won the Myrtle Beach Invitational. Christian Davis, as we all know, was named the MVP, with Zeke, Duke, Meta, Darius all receiving first-team honors as well. We were all questioning how this team would come together in this sort of format, playing, 3 games in 4 days, and I think by all accounts it went pretty well. And also we had been questioning, like the Corey Thomas question had been getting asked a lot, and I think that got answered in Myrtle Beach. He was put in there in meaningful minutes and contributed in big ways. I think he's sort of that spark plug off the bench that comes in, gets a few rebounds. He makes and I don't want to be hyperbolic, but I feel like he makes game-changing plays, like in the limited minutes that he does play. Like he makes a big impact on the game. Like I feel like I'm sure there's a number out there, a metric that measures this, but I feel like he's really efficient in his impact.
Some of the staleness from a game. with some of the big leagues.
He's
we have.
exactly what you would want, I think, in a player
yeah.
off the bench.
Yep.
That comes in, he brings energy. He's willing to do the dirty work, kind
Yep.
of, right?
Yeah.
And
He fights.
he does. And
Fights for
he
those
embraces that role, and you really love to see it. And he kind of we have some. Well, I would say our depth in the post is limited. He does bring some variety, right? So if Meta's a bad matchup, we do have him we can go to because he is a different player, more athletic, and so it's nice having him. And he's been a big time contributor. So Myrtle Beach was great. You mentioned, super fan OJ, right? Was his name. Kind of became a little bit of a sensation there following the tournament. I did find him after reaching out. So I reached out to the incorrect person, but the incorrect person happened to be a friend of his. So it wasn't super awkward, I guess. But
it was awkward.
OJ
I'm sure.
was. But I think that truthfully, I probably came across a little too excited about it. I imagine. I'm like, he's probably who is this guy with their podcast with 7 people that listen that wants me to come on it? But I just left it open ended. Like, hey, you ever want to hop on? Come join us, and just we'll have some fun talking about your experience with the Braves in Myrtle Beach. And I'm sure some of the folks that were down there, Jeff and Wes and some others probably got to meet him and had a good time with them. So it looks like everybody had fun there. Obviously, we returned home, a Black Friday win over Judson and a matinee, which was kind of nice. Honestly, I was kind of like, man, what a weird time, but it kind of fit nicely in the day. And, to go out there 107-41, it was a lot of fun to watch when you win big like that. It is exciting and fun and kind of laid back. The deep bench, got in. I think wasn't it? And I had this a couple weeks ago when we thought we were going to do a show. I had this and I didn't write it down. I think everyone scored, but maybe Sam.
Yeah, Sam was
right?
the only one. Yeah.
And he tried.
Yeah.
To his credit.
Close.
I wonder when the last time that happened was that we had even everyone but one player get on the board. And then I believe it was a school record for made threes with 22, which was also really exciting.
Yep.
Dad, do you have any thoughts? Yeah, any thoughts on Myrtle Beach? Or and people are like, well, it shouldn't count against a non-D1. Okay, but it's like people that wanted to kind of scoff at Caitlin Clark when she got the scoring record because she was playing against women and not men. And you still got to put the ball in the hole, right? I mean, I get that you may not be as well defended as you would be otherwise.
I get it on both sides. I understand.
We're
both
not
arguments.
As successful as Bradley has been in the last, I don't know, 8 years or so. We're not in a position to not celebrate things like this. That's kind of my stance on it. Yeah. Let's celebrate the wins. We don't need to diminish it.
Let's give Judson a little bit of due here because they came out ready to play. If you remember the start of that game,
to be expected, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you like to see that. Some teams, they right off the bat just laying eggs.
Yeah, but
no, they came to play, and you saw it. Within them. On a personal note, I do have to say this: our my little buddy Carver, first time. Well, not first time. We had him there before, but
yeah,
the Judson game, he came, and from the time we walked in the building, time we walked out, that young man was the best behaved and was kind of into everything going on. Did not give us. No, didn't whine about anything. So
yeah, it went really well. He had fun, and it was nice. Yeah, he had a good time, and so that was fun. It was nice to see that. Probably helped that we weren't on the edge of our seats and kind of were probably interacting with him more than we would otherwise.
Right.
Frankly, just keeping him entertained and stuff, and he had a good time. So obviously, the Braves Open Valley play down in Carbondale against Southern Illinois. They've got the new coach in there this year, and Nagy, and he's playing an interesting style for sure, but the Braves get a big win, 22 points out of Zeke to win 83-60. Almar has a great night from behind the arc, and where we sit right now, the Braves lead the nation in 3-point percentage at just over 45%, and that's 2 percentage points ahead of whoever's second. I can't recall who it was, but you got to love what we're seeing as far as the success behind the 3-point line. And you got to have guys, and we say it repeatedly, and it's not, and no one's trying to be negative, but Almar's got to knock these threes down. That he's coming along in other areas of his game, but if he can't make the ball at a pretty good clip from behind the arc, it's tough to justify playing him the
Right.
amount of minutes that he plays. And so it's good to see that he's building confidence. And I mean, as much as we say that, he still led the team, I'm pretty sure, last year in 3-point percentage or something. I
Yeah.
mean, he was
Yeah.
so it's really hard to be too critical. I just think that, sometimes he gets exposed in other areas, which makes us possibly overanalyze, and so you feel better about it when he's really knocking him down.
Well, he gets himself into foul trouble.
Sure, yeah,
And I
and
think
some of that's because he's outmatched a little bit,
Right.
I think. And when you're outmatched, I guess you probably overdo it a little
Yeah.
bit, put yourself in a bad position. Like when you get beat and try to recover, that's when you see a lot of fouls happen, right?
Right.
I would say, guys, that it's easy to overlook a win against Southern Illinois because I think for the players and probably for us too, we don't turn ourselves over emotionally to the rigor that is the conference schedule, the conference schedule. And it's a little bit different, right? Because all of these teams have they have a different vibe to them because it's in the Valley and you want to win all of those games, and there is a little bit more of an emotional stake attached to it. And so to have to kind of flip the script from everything happening at Myrtle Beach and then having to go down to Carbondale, which is not exactly an easy place to play even when the team is down, to be able to get that win so definitively, because it is an emotional switch for the team to try to get them into conference mode when here we are. And, we talked about how the fact that it's the holidays, it's Christmas, it is for these kids too. Like they've got to be focusing as well. So I think that's a very impressive win to look so good in a game that I think was probably a difficult one to get up for, only in the sense that it's such a deviation from what they're doing in the non-conference. And that's just what I took away from it.
They're without their best player now too for the rest of the year.
Yeah, but even with him, like that's a game we should go down and win convincingly.
Absolutely.
But I mean, let's not forget now. We were down 20 points there last year, right? We were down 20 and came back to win.
Let me stop you for a second, because I think this is what a lot of fans get into. SIU changed their entire program when they got rid of
Mullins. I think that was a bad move, truthfully.
I do too.
Yeah, but I mean, he had many years there still, but couldn't get over the hump. But I think a lot of people, in listening to some of or reading a lot of the posts, different platforms, everybody was saying, I'm a little nervous about this game. It is SIU. They play great defense. But I'm like, have you watched them this year? They don't play very, very
traditionally, yes, but under the prior coach.
Yes, yeah, under past coaches that were defensive minded. Nagy's definitely not.
No, I mean,
not
it was
with
very,
this team
very
anyway.
apparent. It was just, put your head down, drive the ball to the basket. I mean, repeatedly.
But and it's like as games go, which is the one coming up, I think could end up, possibly getting ugly. Depends on how they want to do it, but that's with the SIU. I mean, it got ugly because they started slapping hands around.
Well, it's
to muddy up the game.
Well, and it's also real easy to sit back in your chair watching the game from home and be so detached from the emotion of the game. I mean, Bradley spanked them. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah.
And like Division I athletes are all extremely competitive. I mean, look how competitive we are, right? And we're not out there doing it at the highest level. These guys are extremely competitive. They have been their entire lives, and so to go out there and endure a butt whooping like that, it's something that, while yes, like you would hope that all athletes would handle it with
the structure of what they're being coached, and when you get athletes that do that, to where they start muddying up a game. And now that it's on film in more than one game, when teams get to where they want to start muddying up the actual game itself and, get up, body up to us, that's probably our biggest weakness.
I would say that, like, we're not incredibly physical. I mean, I think we intend to play, we intend to play like physical in your face defense, but we're not. I do think that we would be like susceptible to a team that wanted to come out and really just like bad boy Pistons us a little bit. Because Darius's game, right? He's not going to back down from anybody, but at the same time, I mean, you get a guy down there that outweighs him by 50 pounds, which is probably going to happen a few times this season. That's a whole nother ballgame. You could have all the will in the world, but there may come times where you're just physically outmatched, and that's not just mentally that can take a toll on you, but physically having a guy like that um, lean on you all night, it could take its toll for sure.
Right.
And so we'll see. I mean, with all these like flashy dunks, there may come a time where people are like, "Hey, whatever you do, I don't care what it takes, but don't let that happen." You know what I mean?
Well,
And
that's something that could happen in the NCAA tournament, right? When
Right.
Bradley gets one of these guys that could have a superior athlete and they're watching film. And I think you're absolutely right about that, Brad.
yeah, it's just like you can't, because I mean it's a big momentum builder too. It's like I feel like it's something that sort of it gets everybody into the game, especially if you feel like we've been a little bit of a lull. We get one of these big Darius dunks that's going to be on the Sports Center top 10, and it's like if I'm another coach, I'm like, listen, I don't care, whatever. You're going to take the foul, but don't let that happen, and make sure he knows you were there. And so he thinks twice about trying to do it again, and I think we may start seeing a little bit of that. Because if you do get our big guys in foul trouble, things would get real interesting real fast.
Yeah. I mean, these are the weaknesses. I mean, it's okay to admit that you have weaknesses and be able to coach around that, scheme around that. And that's what kind of I feel like this team is surging. And yeah, there's a lot of basketball to play, and they're going to have a ton of different matchups. But I remember how we felt, or how sort of the fan base felt, a little bit down after the Washington State game, because it felt like kind of a big letdown. And yet they've taken that. I think Washington State has proven
Aged
to
well.
be a little bit better. Yeah, that's what I mean. Is like
Yeah.
it's aged well. It doesn't look as bad as it felt in the moment. And the team has continued to grow, I think. And I think Wardle also is using his bench, which is something that we talked about a few weeks ago, about we want to see deeper bench play, especially in Myrtle Beach. I think we saw that. And a lot of things are trending upward as we head into the next couple of games. And even looking at the way that the Valley is right now per the net, Rick, I know that you're a big net guy, so why don't you go ahead and take us through at least an overview, high-level view of the first, 5 or 6 teams in the Valley.
Okay. The net. I also follow the Ken Palm too. It changes,
Game by game,
minute to minute.
Look,
through a
we got
night,
the net in the notes here, Rick. Will you follow the script, please?
Yeah.
We need to get like some rankings out there, like the OG rankings. That'll be the
Yeah.
most preposterous rankings ever.
Yeah.
I want to come back to that comment, by the way, when we talk.
Yeah, we're
about
going to come back
there.
to that. I just wanted to put up there so you guys saw it.
But anyway, yeah, we got Drake on the net 43. They moved up a spot from yesterday. Bradley moved down a spot from yesterday. They're at 54. Northern Iowa 85. Murray State's at 98. Belmont's at 116. Illinois State's 146 with everyone else below 200. So,
And that sucks. That's what really I think hurts when it comes to the at-large conversation is when
well, these
and I
these
know it's
numbers
early.
can
It's
improve.
early. Yes,
Yeah.
and it's early. But also, like, once you get past the non-conference, you're all playing each other. So it's like it can only move so much at that point, right? As far as in a positive way. And I think
Right.
that it just
Well,
sucks
then it
half the league is below 200. Like, that's what kills you. And if it's the Valley, Scott,
Well-
right? Everybody says if you have an off night, we've seen it year in and year out. Look at, we lost at Evansville last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have an off night against one of these sub 200 teams, like that kills your at-large resume.
Well, here's the other thing people need to also understand, if they don't already, is even though you're in to strictly only conference games, your net is also going to be determined by your non-conference foes and
Yeah.
how they do day to day.
Sure.
And then even your conference or your opponent, how their opponents had done helps, will help or hurt their overall ranking, which will help or hurt your overall ranking.
So
maybe in the most minute way.
Sure. Yeah, of course. It's all relative. It all plays into it. I agree with that.
Yeah, but
Are there any surprises here for you though? Anything there that really like you're like, oh shit,
with
the net rankings?
well, within the Valley Conference, I mean, my biggest one, and it's basically more off how I felt Drake was going to do with a new coach, new players, and even at the time, I didn't think D2 players, but if you got D2 players that are pretty good coming from one of the best D2 programs in the country, all, 4 of them move, come with that coach, that system, it's more of a benefit than it is a detriment. And I think that's why Drake is doing so well. I still think they're, I like Coach Wardle's sentiment in this. You're not as good as you think you are, and you're also not as bad as you might think you are either, or what others think you are. You're always somewhere in the middle. And the more Drake gets on film, they're starting to play some closer games. They've had some close games against lesser opponents than the ones that they've beat.
Valpo, right? Valpo kind of had on the ropes a little bit, didn't
they? They almost lost that game, and maybe should have. And Valpo's best player didn't score.
But that kind of speaks to what I talked to you before about how you have to switch gears in the middle of your non-conference season. And Bradley handled it well. Drake did get the W, didn't handle it as well, or at least as fluidly. And so I think these are things you can look at right now.
And traditionally, like the Braves have kind of struggled in these like early non-con games that they sprinkle in December the last few years. And so it's nice to see we played so well in the first one. We got another one coming up here in a couple weeks. But I think right before the first of the year, I can't recall the date.
Who's that?
Who is that comes into town?
Valparaiso.
Valparaiso. Okay, so I mean, that's one you got to get that one right.
29th.
So,
and we're at that point in time. We're all in on the Valley. No more non-cons after that.
So, the net rankings are what they are. They are going to evolve, as we said. It does stink that half the Valley stinks, at least according to the net rankings. And then, Northern Iowa kind of made a big jump, right? Because I think they got picked second, right? And then it seemed like they struggled early, but they, here they are, right?
Well,
it's sitting at 85
with the net and Ken Palm's two different things.
Right.
I don't know which one's actually the more accurate. It's hard to say, but net's what the NCAA uses, so let's go with that. And you got to look at who Northern Iowa has played. I know they played Wichita State. They played some few others. I don't remember who all, and they pretty much got it handed to them. But their guard plays right now a little.
Oh, they got injuries again, right?
Yeah. They lost. Who was it?
We've talked about it in the chat. I can't remember his name. So, all right. So we know where we are, sitting at 54. But heading into 2 games coming up here that are going to be big games for the resume, for the at-large resume, as far as moving up in the net and seeing, there are a couple of measuring sticks to see where this program sits right now. Yeah. And what you got? Go ahead.
Yeah. Before I hit that, I want to hit just real quick 4 teams that we've already played. Would you, as basketball fans following the metrics and these computer rankings, what range would you say is quality opponents?
I guess I feel like it's like top 100. Like for a mid-major, I feel like you get top 100.
How about top 150?
Maybe.
And in this case, what I'm about ready to bring up, top 125.
As I say, top 100, maybe top 150 if you're talking about on the road. Perhaps. I don't know. I'm just making it up on the fly.
3 were in the tournament, neutral courts.
Yeah, stretching that out feels like you're just trying to,
let's go on,
just trying to pad the Bradley resume.
Because
that's right.
No, because there's a lot of people that says just how terrible or
well, and again, like you mentioned about the net, it's gonna, we'll see, right?
It's
to be determined.
But right now, all of these have moved up. Obviously there was the Washington State at 63.
Wright State's going to be a problem for some people.
Hey, Texas State.
Yeah.
We went into that tournament when I was first started looking in at teams. It was Portland and Texas State to me was the 2 absolute worst teams in that tournament. But ends up, besides us, they're second best of that tournament.
In the net right now?
In the net. Okay. Because, we got Washington State. They're at 63. Wright State's at 112. Texas State is at 106. So they're above them. And then you got Middle Tennessee at 117.
Yeah, those are good wins. I'm not diminishing those wins.
They're going to help
top
us
100.
as long as they keep winning and winning against good competition. Texas State has played some tough competition.
Sure.
I think Wright State has. Washington State's obviously going to be in some good.
Well, there's
competition.
it's so bizarre how many common opponents that exist between the WCC and the Valley this year. There's a
Right.
lot of matchups between
there's
those two
two.
leagues.
There's two more Valley teams that get to go play
Washington State, and I think
State.
Santa Clara's got a couple that are cross. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of you connecting the dots between the Valley and the WCC, which is interesting. That's a lot of travel.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some distance these teams are covering.
But so I mean, there's a good layout here of some good quality teams that as they do better, hopefully
Sure.
they don't fall far from where they are right now.
Right. Well, it's
That's
still
all going to help us.
Speaking of that, so the Braves are getting ready to head to Vegas to take on Santa Clara.
Yep.
All right.
No, they're not.
And no, they're not. Heading to Vegas on Saturday to take on Santa
Vegas.
Clara.
That's what we're turning it into.
We have to Car Vegas. That's good. We have to download some obscure, at least to me, obscure app to watch it, which is fine. We'll do that. But I mean, like our friend BU Dave from the chat, if you're in there, Dave, say hello. I would like a full report from Dave on like his happenings in Vegas, kind of like we got from the Valley tournament last year. Just a list of accomplishments, maybe.
I was going to say, is there an over under on how many beers per hour he drinks?
That would be wonderful if someone could track that for us. Also, that video that you made with Duke Dean's face, that was fantastic. I really
awesome.
liked it.
Yeah, it was.
So
hey, you want to answer Wes's question there?
So yeah, I mean, and I think that's relevant right here. Oh, Josh, sorry. Well, you know what? I think Dave. Sorry, put Dave's question up there for Dave's comment. I could have swore it was Dave. It was Josh. I'm sorry, Josh. Same stands for Josh. We need a report of how things are going in Vegas. Dave, I'm sorry. Maybe now you just have to. Maybe we've just spoken it into existence. You can get yourself on a plane. I think there's one that flies out of Peoria tomorrow. So get your rear end on a plane and head there. I'm actually heading to Nashville this weekend with the family. Nash Vegas, if you will. So yeah, you're right. Understandable, easy mistake. Yes, both of you, fine-looking young men. Bradley super fans, definitely easy to get confused with one another. But back to Wes. Wes asks if we feel like we have some rust going into the Santa Clara game.
Possibly.
I mean, traditionally, yes. It's like I feel like maybe there's a little PTSD like from past layoffs and going into games. I mean, against much inferior opponents than what Santa Clara is going to be, and feeling like we were a little rusty. But also, I feel like Coach Wardles, it seems like the type of guy that learns from those things in those situations.
Did you listen to his?
I did not. And I'll let you speak to that here in a moment. You did or did not?
I did.
Okay,
just a little bit ago.
You can speak to that here in a moment. But I think it's possible. But I'm going to remain optimistic in saying that I think that this team seems really mature. And, I think the coaching staff, these guys have been around the block now. They've been through this. I'm sure that they've had a plan for this layoff for a while, because the schedule's been out, and knowing they would have to have these guys ready to play in a meaningful basketball game after such a layoff. So I'm going to err on the side of optimism and say that we're going to be fine. And he'll have the guys ready to play. Iceman.
I think the part that's the hardest to mimic, I mean, obviously Bradley notoriously practices hard, so I don't think that the rust will come in terms of being ready for the physicality of any game. But in any sport that you play, mimicking game speed, when you haven't been on the court or the field or whatever, and you're trying to get back into the muscle memory that is playing a basketball game, when you're in the conference schedule, we're talking a game every 3 days about, and now you have this long layoff, and it's like, it takes a minute to get into that. It takes a minute to get your feet back. No matter how good of a coach you have or how good of a team you have, there is something. It's just a matter of how quickly do they shake it off and how quickly do they get into the speed of the game, especially not being at home, as Rick has pointed out, right? You're on a neutral court. There's just a lot of different factors that make it more difficult to get into the game speed, but they are well coached. They are surging, and so I, like Brad, am optimistic that they can get out of it. Maybe they look a little sluggish at first, and then they pick it up because they're like, "Oh, I remember how to do this."
I do think it's helpful too that we're coming off of the trip to Myrtle Beach not that long ago, so like I think just the routine of travel and being on a neutral floor and whatever else I think is probably going to be at least familiar. because of how recent it was. And we got Joey here. Yeah, rest did us well. I think so too. You mentioned practice hard. Think did us some good for some guys battling some bumps and bruises. I agree completely. Yeah, it might take us a bit to maybe until like the under 16 or something to kind of weather the storm, get to the under 16 timeout. I'm sure Ward will rattle their cages a little bit and we'll be all right. I agree with you, and I think that again, I had that in the back of my head too, Joey, that rest would probably be good. Like this team needs a little rest. We obviously knew Duke was banged up a little bit. And so knowing that he's had the time off he needs to be able to go out and play this game, I'm sure there's some other bumps and bruises that we're not aware of. I'm sure that although Birch is back and playing, he may not be 100%. So the fact that he gets a little more time to recover and be at full strength will be a good thing as well. So especially not being 100% sure on where Duke is with the head injury. I think we got a little Jashawn PTSD there, right? Because we know how that went. So hopeful that things are much better for Duke in this case because we're going to need him down the stretch for
Game
sure.
time decision.
Well, of course. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Gamesmanship.
Yeah.
Gamesmanship.
Yeah, of course.
You don't
Well,
want
so
to
we were
away.
talking about that in the kitchen here. And I'm like, why would you say anything, right? I mean, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I guess there's still, as Wardle said, there's still some. They do certain parameters every day, more stringent than the day before.
Yeah, I'm sure there's still
And
some
he's got a few
boxes
more
that need to be
things. Yeah,
checked. Yeah,
exactly.
before I get that for sure.
Now the team's also been going through some. Everybody's over the last couple of weeks have had colds going through them.
Oh, there you go. I mean, it's
on
been
the team,
rampant
so-
around Central Illinois,
Yeah.
man. Illness, pneumonia, COVID, whatever.
At
It's
least
just running wild.
It hadn't seemed like to be the flu. At least the flu word was not mentioned.
No,
Rick Powell, MD, over there giving us the
Yeah,
breakdown
there
of
you
all
go.
of the viruses going through the locker room. But let's get back to the game and off of the medical advice, shall we? So talking about net 91, obviously that fits within Rick's net top 300 for quality wins. So this is obviously a quality opponent that we're going to be playing. So Rick, why don't you break it down, some key player strengths and weaknesses as you know what to do.
Well, team for team, we match up, I think, pretty well with these guys. I mean, they're averaging 75 points a game. We're 83, and we give up 66. They give up 72. 3-point field. We got them. We smoke them 3-point field goal percentage. They're
I don't know if you heard or not, but we smoke everyone in the country in 3-point percentage,
Yeah.
sir.
So rebound.
Incoming historic game from Santa Clara behind the arc.
Here's some nuggets. Rebounding is going to be a big issue. They corralled about 39 per game, and we're at 35. So, and they're a little bit, maybe a little bit bigger, more physical inside than we are. But we'll see how much fight.
Have they ever been on the receiving end of a meta blaster? Because until you have been, we cannot.
Not that I know.
We cannot predict how they will handle.
They do have a couple 7-footers, but they're not very productive. But they got one guy that can hit the 3. So, will Meta hit one? Will he?
We'll get to that.
Hope
The only time
well,
will
if
tell.
he ever does, let's hope it goes in. He'll never shoot another 3 after that. But anyway, and I was going through their roster. There's really only 4 guys that produce a lot, but they're kind of like us in the fact that they don't have one guy to go to. Nobody on that team averages over 12 points a game. They got 3 guys that's at 12, 1 at 11, and then the next one down I see is like 6.3, and then the others are a little bit lower than that. But it's one where I watched them here just even a little bit ago, rewatched them again play Fresno State, their last game. And Fresno State hung with them for a while, but I think, we should win this without a problem.
I feel good about what you're saying in the sense that you said they've got, their scoring spread out amongst 4 guys, because I feel like we play aggressive enough defense that it's impossible that all 4 guys are going to play well. And I feel like what kills us, I feel like in the last few years, games where we've really struggled is a team has a very definitive #1 player, and we always shut down Batman, but then we get beat by Robin, right? And I feel like that's happened. Like I think about the semifinal game against Drake. I mean, like Mal locked DeVries down. You know what I mean? And it didn't. Unfortunately, it didn't matter in
Yeah.
the end. Because like we got beat by Robin, and then um, so I think in this situation where it's just like I don't think we have to concern ourselves with worrying about one specific guy. Let's just play great team defense, and I
Well,
feel good about that.
One thing, I mean, I did notice that if they do set up in their half court offense, they being Santa Clara, if they come down running their half court offense, spread us out, there I think they have a little bit more quickness than we do, and they will burn us, down low.
Well, I think that
A
if
lot.
teams can spread us out and drive, you're gonna either one
Well,
of
that's
two
been
things
on
or
tape
both things
too
are gonna happen.
now.
You're gonna either get us in foul trouble or get us in foul trouble and obviously get yourself to the free throw line a
Right.
lot. Now you have to convert from the free throw line once you get there, but yeah, that's definitely something we have to solve for at some
Right.
point in time.
Now, Fresno State does not have a guard tandem like Duke and Bully, and they haven't met a guy like Bully yet. Because they will. What was another stat I saw? Steals 7.5 steals a game. That they usually do, and they only allow it. What was it? 6 against them. But I mean, Bully is coming of his own. I think, my opinion.
OG, you're getting out
Yeah.
OG'd in the comment section right here. We got
What's this?
Ted here talking about
love
one of their good what's that? Yeah.
Oh, he's
We
right.
got to get
though.
him
He's right
a
though.
magnifying glass so he can read it.
But yeah, I got to get closer to
Some
read it. But yeah, he is right though. I mean,
Spectacles.
32% from 3. He's one of the guys that average 12 points a game, and he'll be a force inside.
Is he one of the big guys?
Yeah, well, he's 6'7".
Is he? And he's the one that you said can make threes.
7-footer. Christoph Tilley, 42%.
All right, well,
I don't know what
this
his
isn't
volume
Christoph
is.
Tilley.
but-
This is Adama Alpha Ball.
Yeah, Adama Alpha Ball. Yeah, he hits.
God, I
he's
hope
30
you said that
He's
right.
30.
Who cares? Like
He's 30. The ball is right. Adama Alpha. That's his first name.
Haven't you been scouting these guys for months, Rick? How do you not know how to pronounce their
heck
names? Come on
no.
now.
So, and that's, I mean, and maybe this is a Corey Thomas game, maybe, right? If this guy's gonna take our bigs out to the perimeter, we're gonna
Could
need
be. I mean,
what? I mean, I just think we'll see, right? I mean, it's gonna be
Weight-wise,
matchup contingent, and it seems
yeah.
like I do feel like we've adapted as the game goes on here and there too, which is nice. I don't know that Corey Thomas is a guy that we're going to see that's like starting, unless it's really convincingly like a matchup thing. But yeah, if Almar's shooting it the way he's been shooting
if you're wanting to come out defensively, I think, for rebounding purposes, you go with Thomas. But if you want to have that scoring threat, you go with Almar.
Sure. So where do you think we could exploit the Broncos? They have the Broncos. I looked it up. What a boring name.
Well, there's
I'll hang up.
There's some like there's some like strength, but I
First
mean,
time, long time.
our team play, our team defense. We get the ball, we get out there, and we'll run it. We run our offense. We do what we do and do what we do best. We'll be fine. We just get the rush shaken off, set our screens, get our guys open to shoot. If they start guarding our outside guys too much, then, we'll flip it in there to Darius and Meta or Corey.
No one's
or
really
Almar.
Forced us to do that yet.
No,
right?
They haven't.
Which is interesting.
They have not.
I'm not well versed enough in the X's and O's of basketball to know what that takes to run a team that shoots the ball from 3 the way we do off the 3-point line, and force them to beat you in the paint. I don't know what that requires.
It was Judson. Judson had no answer.
No, I get that, but no one really has. Truthfully.
Well, we didn't shoot the ball very well out.
But it wasn't because we weren't wide open. I mean,
no.
and that's just it. Like it's no one's defended us well at the 3-point line at this point.
Yep.
And so what happens when someone does? Is my question. I don't know enough about the X's and O's of basketball to know. I mean, do we just have
Well,
too many? Do we
both.
have too many threats that we are hard to defend?
We get
And that-
Bully and we get Birch driving the lane to contact and you know,
Right.
scoring that way, scoring dishing. But we need
Isn't that
Meta.
funny? I feel like when
We need Meta to get the hands of Corey Thomas.
Well, but it takes time. I mean, that's something that
He needs
Hey,
to
let
work
me
on
tell
it.
you something, okay? And I know it's frustrating when we watch when we see Duke or some of these guys drop these beautiful passes in the meta, like on the run, where it's like if he could catch it, it'd be. But even if he could catch it and gather himself to make an attempt at scoring, like you couldn't make that catch, I couldn't make that catch. Most of us couldn't make that catch in that moment. So it's like let's sit back for a minute.
Place the pass to Meta is above his head.
Okay.
And you know what? That's a perfect segue, Rick, to the stat that everybody wants to hear. Give us Meta stat line for this game.
Oh, Meta stat line. I haven't even thought about it.
Jesus
Is this a good matchup for Meta? I mean, because size wise,
I think it could be. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what. We just have to wait and see. I mean, hey, I really thought he had it. Had a prime opportunity to just have a bust out line. Was it against Judson or was it Southern that I had that last one? I think it was Judson. I had one where he was getting a double. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think that might have been Southern.
Yeah, but definitely no double. I think he can get around 7-8 points. Half a dozen or so rebounds, hopefully assists or so here and there.
So you're just speaking in like general. You're giving ranges now.
I'm giving ranges.
Your conviction with the Meta stat line is plummeting every single episode. It's been 3 weeks, so maybe we should give him a little bit of a pass. But if you want to give us, go ahead.
And that's not like a knock on Meta and like
that's
what he's done.
That's about right, Joey. I agree with that. 6 points, 5.
Oh, that's easy. Play the result.
You know what though? I'll disagree on the fouls because he has, for the most part, stayed out of any kind of severe foul trouble. Except maybe one game.
I would agree with that. He's done a pretty good job at keeping himself
a really good job
out of trouble, for sure. And so it's good to see that. And it's funny because I think that we've kind of built. Meta's a very solid player for us. And he's really had a good year.
He has built his way into.
And if he continues to, if what we've seen so far is just becomes the average as the season goes, like that's going to be great for the Braves. It's just here obviously in. The Meta lore has kind of built him up into like legend status a little bit. So it's
if we get a Meta Blaster at least once a game, just like we got a Darius poster.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Such a hard time taking that seriously, guys. Like I'm too immature to be dealing with Meta Blaster. If we get one in the hole, I just can't anymore. Like I'm almost at the point where I got to get up and leave because this is just out of control. But we should watch out for Meta stat line. And we should also watch out in the chat. Brad is going to put his parlays or whatever you want to call them, your prop bets for the game.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean.
I didn't do that the last game or so, but yeah, I will.
Yeah,
and
we
I don't know
get
if
back
he's
to
in here,
doing
but
that.
I want to shout out Chris Gantos, man. I met him on the way to the parking deck after the Judson game. Happened to bump into him. Said hi. Great guy. Super nice guy. So
and I said sneaker guy.
Guys. Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, he and I have chatted about the fine art that is the sneaker game once or twice. So it is nice when fans get to meet folks. I'm glad that you guys get to meet some people, and hopefully one day I'll get to do that. So I think we have a lot to look forward to with this game against Santa Clara. The next game after that will be the 18th against San Francisco, net 50. That's a big game. Hopefully we'll get an episode in before then so that we can kind of break it down after a hopeful big win against Santa Clara. So Kenny, we are rewarding your patience staying to the end of the episode as Brad and Rick have added some questions that you asked in the chat, and we always like to hear some questions and some interaction for some folks. So, Brad, why don't you go ahead and take it away with some of these questions? I think one of them we've gotten to, but let's go ahead and reward Kenny for not just asking the questions, but watching us on the big screen.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the big screen, Kenny. Thank you for the questions, and thanks for the support, obviously. So Kenny dropped a few questions in the chat on X that you all probably saw the other day. The first one being if you could add any past Brian Wardle era player to this current Bradley roster, who would it be? And I'll turn it over to the OG to start, and I'll just throw in my 2 cents, and we'll go from there.
I'm going to throw 2 names out there.
Cheater.
No. I mean, I'm
No,
going to say
it's hard to
you
really
can
pick
do
one. I
2,
agree.
but they're recent, and it depends on what you really want to add or bring back to this team. But first of all, I'll say Malavi.
Right. That's like I feel like that's like the easy answer
Because
and it's probably the right answer.
We're a little weaker on the defensive side.
Yeah. D-Lo.
How
That's a good one.
about Rink Mast?
Yeah, we talked about that. I think that's a good one too. I think it's really hard to go wrong here because you could probably name 3 or 4 guys.
You absolutely could, yeah.
You know what's funny though is one name that you might not that you would think you would say, but we wouldn't. And then all due respect, Daryl Brown, one of the greats of the Brian Wardle era, but it's like I don't know that he elevates this team that much from where they are because Duke's done a fine job. And now Duke's not quite Daryl Brown, admittedly, but I thought about this immediately from okay, where are our deficiencies and who could solve that problem? And so immediately I go to like the post, and yeah, Childs is one that came to mind. Ted, absolutely.
Yep.
Elijah Childs came to mind. Rink Mast, Malavi, of course. I'm gonna throw this wild card out there that I said to my dad when we were talking about this. Koch Barr, kind of popped in. Just a real steady, solid post player. Now you have, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, Tyshawn Pickett. That's a blast from the past for sure. But I think, yeah, like we definitely need like a physical presence, and not that Koch was like this overly physical guy. I mean, Ari Boya and
I would take Barr
him and
over Boya.
but I mean, Ari and Meta are similar in what they bring to the table. So I don't know that there's like a huge advantage to be gained there.
Koch Barr in Meta's body.
Yeah,
I would take that.
but then you're like, okay, so who do you put Koch in place of Almar? Because Almar can do things that Koch can't do or couldn't do, right? But Koch could do things that Almar can't quite do. So it's just like which one do you take, right? Pick your poison, I suppose. Lax grit, yeah, Mallard Henry, yeah, Jashawn Henry popped into my head as well.
Yep.
It's just like that guy that's physical. And Bully, he wears his number too. He reminds me, he plays the game a lot like Jashawn did. It's just right now he plays a position where his minutes are limited. And he's not going to be a guy that's going to be banging down in the paint like Jashawn was, but I think that he definitely has the same sort of energy and physicality.
That spark plug that Deshaun was. I think that's what Bully can do.
Man, so Terry Roberts, I just have like a bad taste in my mouth about how that whole year went, right? With the way that season ended or whatever happened in Springfield, Missouri that year that involved all those guys and whatnot. That was it just stinks because I feel like there was a lot of optimism because you heard people talk when Roberts was redshirted, everyone's like the best player on the team isn't even dressed, and they were implying that he was the best player on the team. And he certainly like appeared to be that once, we got to the next season he played. But I think that things sort of, things kind of went south there, unfortunately, with whatever went down. And that's kind of unfortunate. Oh, Terry Nolan. Good call. I'm sorry. You're right. Thanks, Wes. Terry Nolan. Yes. Goodness. Terry Nolan.
So you're fired, is what I'm hearing.
I'm fired. Terry Nolan, though. Oh, that's exactly who I'm thinking of for sure. That's a good call. So anyway, I remember Terry. Didn't Terry Roberts transfer and go play somewhere else from here? Right? And someone in the chat can correct us. But Dyreka Sims Edwards at the point, yeah. But that's pre Wardle though, right? So
Lukeman.
Lukeman Lundy, yeah, just the transfer to Georgia. Yes, okay, yeah,
Had one
absolutely.
good half.
That's all coming back to me now. So that was a fun conversation, and the best part was my dad's like, "Well, why do we have to limit it to Brian Wardle? Let's just say ever."
No, that would be.
Let's just and then Hersey Hawkins. Well, no shit, um, like, so let's move on to the next question, which we kind of dabbled around earlier, which is Drake the real deal? So, Dad, you've had a lot of thoughts and opinions on Drake, so I was turn it over to you and let you.
Yeah, I believe they are the real deal, as far as competing for the Valley Championship regular season and tourney. I do think that there may still be. Yeah, we'll find out when they play Kansas State here in a week or so. Tonight they're playing St. Ambrose. It's like what their second non-D1 team on their schedule. But like I said, there's a blueprint out there, and Valparaiso almost completed it a week ago. So it's going to be getting out there how, if not slow them down to give people a chance, it's to actually beat them.
Yeah.
And once they do, then things will start falling.
So what do you say? For real or no? Yes or no?
Yeah, they are for real.
I'm going to give it an incomplete because I think that when you have obviously the momentum that the program had, and I know they lost a lot, but you have a coach coming in that's won a lot. He brought a few players with him. It's real easy to come out of the gates swinging, and that's what they've done. But it's a lot harder to sustain that, especially when you get into the grind of the Valley schedule and some of these veteran rosters and these teams that have been together and have these established cultures and all that stuff. I think that we'll really see what they're made of at that point in time. So I'm not gonna. I'll give them their flowers as far as what they've accomplished.
Them the championship.
No,
I'm just saying
I'll give them
conversation where before I had them like sixth or lower.
I'll give them their flowers for what they've accomplished, and it's great for the league. It's in everyone's best interest that they do what they've done, and it's fantastic. But I'm gonna reserve judgment until maybe mid-February.
Yeah,
on the Bulldogs.
Sad thing for the leagues. Two of the teams they played in that tournament are faltering. Miami and Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic has really fell off.
Yeah, so you talk about for us, Washington State aged well. It's a good loss, at least right now. Those wins have not aged as well as they would have hoped, right?
Yeah, no, they still got Vanderbilt win that's relevant, extremely relevant. So
let's move on to the last one. Early Valley Player of the Year candidates. Now, admittedly, I'll be honest with you guys. Like, my college basketball fandom begins and ends with the Bradley Braves. Like, I don't watch a lot of basketball, guys, because I'm a freaking wrestling coach. All right. I coach middle school wrestling. I played basketball for like 1 year of my entire life. I was absolutely terrible at it. But I love the Bradley Braves. And literally my basketball fandom in its entirety is just the Bradley Braves. Very intensely the Bradley Braves, except for when it comes to guys named Terry, apparently, that I can't distinguish between one or the other. But so I don't watch. Dad watches all these games. He'll watch. He watches all the Valley games. He watches their non-conference games, everything else. And so, I would like to think that Duke will play his way into contention for this. I mean, I would say to this point, he's been good, but he hasn't been Player of the Year good because people have done things to take him out of rhythm and things like that. I think to this point, you could make an argument. I think Bradley's got 3 players that could put themselves in position for this award. And I think that's Duke, obviously, Darius. And I think the one that is just kind of going under the radar right now is Zeke. Yep. Zeke's been really good, and we don't talk about it enough.
No.
Because I think we're expecting it. But Zeke's been really damn good.
But see, here's the thing. When it comes to Players of the Year, what's one thing that everybody really looks at?
Well, it almost always ends up being the leading scorer on the best team, or whatever, right? I mean, that's it.
That is, and unfortunately, because it's like picking out the homecoming queen. Who's the most popular? But if you go by stats right now, Sturts at Drake, I mean, if you look at the stats today, he's the highest. He's like at 18 something points a game, but he's also like 5 boards, 6 assists, blah blah, so on a game. The next closest person I think is Zeke. Zeke's line is starting to look better. There's few areas he needs to improve on and get a little bit better, but he's getting there. And if Duke comes out and does what Duke does, in the end, I think he's going to get it. Because the other thing to keep in mind is, I hope when they pick Player of the Year, it's going to be based off Valley stats.
I think that's the expectation.
So that we'll have to see what the Valley stats are compared to overall the whole season. But I would say Sturts, and as you said, Duke, Darius, and Zeke. Some of the others.
Do you ever get a kick
a
out of when
handful.
when the ESPN Plus crews, when they always do like Larry Bird watch, Larry Bird trophy watch, and it's like they usually put 3 players up there, and it's like they'll have like just someone that has no business even being like in the conversation, like up there, and it's like, what do you guys even like pay any attention to what happens? And I don't, I just admittedly, again, I don't really watch Beyond Bradley, but like they had a guy from SIU on it the other night during the SIU game when they posted the graphic, and I'm like, there is literally like a 0% chance that anybody on the Southern Illinois roster wins Player of the Year. Like the fact that they had a player from Southern even up there is a possibility.
Who said that?
I thought it was the graphic that popped up during the game, during the Bradley SIU game on ESPN Plus, because they always do that.
Well,
Larry
presently,
Bird
no. I mean,
Player of the Year
Elliott
watch,
was probably the only one that had a shot.
and that might have been who it was. I can't recall, but it's just because I remember last year. One time we were watching it last year, and they put it up there, and they had somebody up there, and you about fell out of your chair that they had whoever. You're like, what?
Every game, doesn't matter who's playing. Every Valley game, there's always 3 players or maybe 4 that they'll put up there as Larry Bird. And I'm looking at them like, okay.
Well, aren't those ESPN Plus crews sort of almost like local broadcasters to the city that they're at?
Depends. It depends. They have like, I think it's like they have like an A crew that they send like to like the best game, I think, or the good games, and then like other times I do think it's maybe a combination of
wasn't
local.
the Southern crew.
Well, maybe conference games. We'll have to ask Matt McClain, because maybe conference games are a little different in terms of like they have assigned crews, and then because I think Matt's done a lot of the non-conference games, so maybe he hops in on the non-cons, but then for conference games, like the ESPN assigns a crew or something like that.
And Matt, if you're watching or listening, I want to see 3 Braves on the Larry Bird watch the next time you do a Braves game. I want to see all 3 of them.
It's just Duke, Darius, and Zeke.
Yes, do it for the OG, man. Just do it for him, because I know that you listen. Guys, first of all, I want to thank Kenny for those questions. I want to thank everybody for your interaction in the chat. This has been a great night, and I know that it's late in the week. Everybody's tired, but we really appreciate everybody sticking with us over the last 3 weeks. And in the content world, 3 weeks is basically a death sentence. So the fact that anybody even asked for this and wanted this is definitely amazing, and I do appreciate it. And before we get out of here, guys, do you have anything left that you want to tell everybody that has been in here before we get out?
What you got, Dad?
Yeah, I appreciate everybody, that does listen, contribute questions. Anybody out there, hey, spread the word, get other people, some others to listen. And got any more questions? Hey, post them up on that message board that we do off of X.
Yeah, and guys, this is like none of doing this is because
I love doing it.
Yeah, we love doing it. We love the Bradley Braves. It has nothing to do with like trying like any sort of self-promotion at all whatsoever. As much as I love meeting all of you, and I sincerely do, like honestly, it's like the most uncomfortable thing in the world for me to like someone to come and pick, oh, you're this guy from this thing. Like, because it's like I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm super happy though to meet all of you, because I know we have this passion that we share, and that's like what it's about for me. And by you sharing this with other people and this show growing, what that's going to do is create opportunities for us to like gain probably a little bit of access to potentially players and coaches, and make this thing really awesome to be able to bring content to you guys that doesn't currently exist. in the world of Bradley basketball. And the more viewers and listeners that this gets, the easier it is for us to facilitate those types of things. Because no one, I imagine that right now, if we were to go ask for certain things to talk to certain people, they might laugh at us currently, which is fine. But if as this grows and the audience grows and the support grows, like I said, it becomes it gives us legitimacy, which is a good thing. And we just sincerely appreciate all the support. Honestly, it's great. I love you guys. And this has been a lot of fun. And I think
we all
we're
love
gonna have
this
fun this
team.
season. Yeah, we all love this team. That's all that matters in the end.
Yep.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
keeps me preoccupied and keeps
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Earlier, when you
mind,
were talking about Carver and how he was good at the game, I honestly thought Brad was talking about you, about how you just kept giving him snacks and giving him attention, and he's good. He's good. He's good. He's paying attention. But I just want to also say, in terms of transparency, Brad talked about how we're not doing this for attention or whatever. Like, we lose money doing this, to be perfectly honest. Like, this is not a money making venture in the least, and that's the whole point. Is we are doing this tired after days at work, days with kids, all these other things. And we do this because we genuinely love content in general. We love this group. Continue to bring it in the best way that we can. And what Brad said is 100% true. I know that it's difficult to break barriers down, but we kind of fill a void that doesn't really exist out there. I was surprised that there were no Bradley podcasts that really existed in the way that we're trying to exist. And so we're trying to do something for this fan base who deserves it, quite frankly. And I know that the three of us are going to do whatever we can to make that a reality. And the reason we do this show is for you, those of you who are watching or listening. So I am definitely very appreciative. I think I've had a great time from Coach and the OG. I mean, it has been a wonderful experience, and we hope to get back to you before 3 weeks from now. But we'll see you all next time, everybody. This is Braves Talk.